On today's episode of Funny Pony Show, Season 2, Episode 3, Lesson 0. This is a weird one for the bad friend point. I'm not confident on if I should even give one out, and if I do, I'm not confident on who should get it. Should it be the main six for ignoring Twilight's distress? Should it be Twilight for having a mental breakdown over nothing? Although I guess to her it's not nothing, so obviously you gotta respect people's problems, even if you don't entirely understand them. It's kind of the whole point of this episode. I guess I'll... No, they didn't start the conflict, though. The conflict was entirely started by Twilight just having a freak out of nowhere. Maybe it's Spike for not trusting... No, because he obviously fixed the whole scenario, so he knows everything. I'm not going to give one. I'm not going to give any points for this one. And then next episode, I'll see what you guys think, if you think some ponies deserve to the point or not. But I'm just going to go with no, because it feels really complicated. Also on today's episode, we're dialing up another character trait to 10 for an entire episode's plot. We have Twilight joined by Spike to make a checklist that she used to gather supplies needed to make a checklist for everything she needs to do today. Did you follow that? No? Neither did I. She then starts another checklist, listing her making a checklist as the first check. Spike and I are obviously upset at her shenanigans, though it is a really funny bit. This is also the end of the cold open, which makes it one of the shortest cold opens I've seen in this show. Most of the opens are like a minute long, with this only being 30 seconds. There might be a shorter one, obviously, like the part 2s of the two-parter episodes never have a cold open, they just go straight back into the plot, so yeah. And some of them have recaps, I guess, but that doesn't really count. Anyway, moving on. Oh hey, for some reason they made changes to the opening with episode 3, not the premiere of season 2. Okay then. There's now a train going through the middle of Ponyville, which will not be kept consistent with the actual show, so don't worry about it. But there is a hidden Derpy 38. Also, despite recapping things last episode as part of the whole new season, I forgot to recap what I'm doing with the background pony count, because some people might be confused. For the new viewers, I'm counting the number of Lyras, Derpies, and Bonbons that the show uses in the background. Usually when they appear in different scenes, not just every appearance. I completely forgot to reiterate that one for the new people. The CMC riding in a train is not a great sign, though with the main six's backstories, I guess they just sort of let kids do whatever they want, except for that one Future Applejacket focused episode where they do the opposite, and they are very, very restrictive in the movements of the fillies. And that one scene is the only difference. Weird AF. Not sure why they made that change at all, to be honest. I guess it includes Derpies in the CMC, so it has characters we'll be seeing later more often, but it still feels like a waste of energy and time to reanimate all of that. Oh well. Spike and Twilight are basically running errands, and Spike does some joking around about the lists. Twilight has and always will enjoy her lists, but it's not usually this pronounced and focused on. This is definitely, as I said, a dialed up to 11 situation for this character trait of Twilight's, which is several episodes, many episodes even. Twilight gets a free cupcake and is now upset because they're sharing frosting. We're getting Karen Sparkle today, it seems. Poor Mrs. Cake. The reasoning for Twilight complaining? Well, it's because she thinks ponies will get upset that a dollop of frosting was given or taken from one another. Have we gotten overly cautious manic Twilight yet? I guess Twilight's reaction to forgo the gala in season 1 episode 3 Ticketmaster was a manic over the top reaction, but it didn't involve others, so it didn't feel similar. She was mostly just like making a sacrificial play, but now she's troubling Mrs. Cake, so it's a bit more pronounced and annoying. I guess that's probably what it is. It's just involving someone else. Like, yeah, obviously foregoing the ticket also affected the friend she would have brought with her, but she wasn't going to be able to pick, so it didn't really affect anyone other than herself. I don't know. I'm overcomplicating it like usual. So Twilight takes it upon herself to destroy the cupcakes. Oh boy, manic Twilight is good for comedy, but terrible for her character. This is going to be rough to watch. Again. Also, the cupcakes are now all back to normal, but they're multicolored now instead of all the same color, and the color that they were was similar to Mrs. Cake's mane. Spike licks the frosting off his entire body and then sits on Twilight. I agree with her. This is kind of gross. Well, the cupcakes are fixed, and by fixed I mean back to the way Twilight wanted them, and they're also rotating slowly while Twilight holds them, which is a cool mini detail that makes the scene feel more dynamic and not static. This is some good scene composition. Here enters the plot. Twilight hasn't sent a letter to Celestia in 7 days, and she needs to send one by the end of the day or she'll be tardy. That's it. She's gonna have a mental breakdown this episode entirely because of this. We'll probably be talking about Celestia's caring and chill demeanor again this episode. Spike, once again, like in Ticketmaster back in season 1, is the voice of reason, explaining that this isn't that big of a problem and Celestia will understand. With how often Spike is the voice of reason, it makes Owl's Well That Ends Well even worse of an episode in my opinion. Oh right, Spike explains that Twilight is so studious that Celestia wouldn't care, and would give her an extension or even excuse the week. Well, at the end of the episode, we'll understand the assignment better, so I guess we can wait until then. Twilight has begun the same train of thought that she had in A Bird in the Hoof, where she thinks Celestia won't forgive her and will punish her instead. Not entirely sure where she developed this fear of authority. Well, it might actually just be a personal fear of failure that she projects onto Celestia as her authority figure. She fears failure, so she projects that Celestia doesn't want her to fail either. I'm not sure if that's ever actually delved into in the show itself, but it's an interesting perspective, I guess. So Twilight rabbit holes herself into believing that she'll be sent back to Magic Kindergarten for failing an imaginary test that she made up for Celestia to give her. Twilight has a doctorate in self-gaslighting. Twilight decides to leave and find some pony who has a problem to solve. But not just any problem, a friendship problem, because those happen every single day. The fact that it's happened every week for presumably about a year is already pretty insane, unless we're not chronological still. But someone said that after season 1, the series is kept relatively chronological, so whether we choose to believe that or not is on us, I guess. Amethyst Star just decides to break the fourth wall and stare into our souls. Why? We don't see much bucking indoors, usually they just headbutt through them. Most of the bucking happens with trees or when fighting enemies. Rarity is also dialed up to 11 this episode and freaking out about the worst possible thing, which puts a sparkle into Twilight's eye. What's Rarity so upset about? Probably something important, right? Oh, huh. She actually lost some diamond-encrusted material. I honestly thought it was a joke that was going elsewhere, but no. Well, the resolution might be interesting then, right? No way they pull a double Deceppi on me, right? Ah, dang, they did the old double Deceppi, and it was just laying on the floor. No cool resolution. So it looks like this is going to be a mostly comedic episode, which is fine. Those are some of my favorites, but there's not a lot for me to talk about. I'll keep it chill and jovial, not really worry about that. That being said, Rarity does seem to both notice and show concern for Twilight when she sees that Twilight's upset, so that's good awareness, despite the fact that she's working and usually ignores things while working. One other thing, how did ponies invent scissors that look like our scissors? They don't have fingers. They wouldn't design them to look exactly like the ones we have. They would look more like shears or something. Am I wrong? We join Rainbow as she's bringing down a barn for Applejack by violently kicking and punching it. I'd say a large tornado would probably be better, but I respect the desire to get her hooves dirty. Rainbow's need and craving for violence and destruction, causing her to literally bite the wood, is relatable, but also getting a splinter in your mouth sounds like hell. She probably isn't thinking, because let's be fair, she never is, but oh, that's not, just thinking about it. Twilight sees the chaos and thinks Rainbow hates Applejack at the moment. Given how Rainbow's acted in the past, this isn't even an unreasonable assumption. Twilight's also happy about all the bad things potentially happening today because she's that desperate for something to fix her own problems. Not sure if that says something bad about her or not, probably does. I'll let you guys decide though. Side note, the animation of this episode is very expressive and vibrant, which is nice. The animation in season 2 overall is a step up, if I'm being honest. More evidence that unicorns are nutty and Twilight's bog brain keeps forgetting she can do crap like this. Just spatially locking Rainbow's tail casually so she can't move as she prepares a friendship speech. Like, Jesus, Twilight, how do you struggle? In incompetence mostly, but she shouldn't be incompetent with how intelligent she's shown to be in so many different situations. Granted, anxiety does do a lot to people, and she's got it in spades, so who knows. Also, this just came to me while recording, but she could have done this last episode while they were trying to catch Rainbow. We can assume that she learned it after the fact because of how annoying it was to catch Rainbow, but still, and continuing to expand on that thought, the amount of times Twilight learned something that would be extremely useful in the episode prior tells me that this might be intentional, and that every time she encounters a problem that she had trouble overcoming, she learns a spell to deal with it, which, if that was ever, talked about or displayed, that would have been amazing character writing and continuity, but it never is, so it's just annoying. The outline for Rainbow's stomach is misaligned here for a few frames. That's it. Twilight going into full therapist mode. Also, she honestly looks like an actual librarian now, which is funny to see after a year of her in her actual library. And once again, everything gets immediately resolved. Rainbow does specify that she, quote, has no problems with Applejack, end quote. And it feels like those two have a bygones be bygones relationship, and they don't really hold grudges ever. Couldn't be me. I have a grudge book like the dwarves, and it's thick enough that you could fit like 17 Bibles in it. Rainbow dive bombs into the shed, setting off a massive rainbow explosion. She dove, head first, into a shed, fast enough to explode, but she got a concussion from hitting a sign in the episode over a barrel from smacking into just a sign. Yeah, okay, damage continuity. Twilight goes to Fluttershy, telling herself that this was the obvious decision since Fluttershy always has some problem going on or some fear to get over, so she should be able to get something done here. And she comes across Fluttershy facing down a bear, only for Fluttershy to absolutely beat the non-existent pants off of this bear, which naturally shocks Twilight. Then she kills it by snapping its neck like a Kit Kat bar.
Actually, she was giving the bear a chiropractic massage.
But also, Twilight saw Fluttershy manhandle and kill a bear with her bare hooves and just walked away dejected that she couldn't help her. Instead of, I don't know, showing concern over Fluttershy murdering an animal? She didn't even try to confront Fluttershy on breaking her own values. She just accepted it. Twilight, you had ample motive for a potential friendship problem. Why didn't you approach? I guess she was also afraid of Fluttershy, which, I mean, fair given the situation, but the lack of reaction is weird. Twilight argues with her insecurities in the form of her reflection in the puddle. I guess this could be a contrast between her inner thoughts and outer persona. She feels the need to be confident and capable on the outside while constantly fearing failure on the inside. That can kind of make sense. I can see it. Okay, but random thought. Apple Bloom said she was the only filly in our class with no cutie mark before the CMC transferred in, and here we see 3 more blank flanks. I have to assume they're like 1 year before Apple Bloom in the CMC, otherwise Apple Bloom would just be wrong. That being said, Cheerilee's class seems to shapeshift constantly. Even if she has multiple different classes per day, the ponies in each class are random effectively. Twilight also had a flash of panic thinking the giggling children were laughing at her for being a failure. She must have been bullied in school, but I don't know if we ever get to see that. Maybe in this episode? I don't think so, but let's keep going and find out. If we do get to see it, it's probably in the Moon Dancer episode, if I had to imagine. Rainbow's memeable sunglasses appear here for potentially the first time. She may have used them in a previous episode, but I don't recall pointing them out, so here we are. This is more of the cringe stuff I'm not a fan of. But anyway, the main six are all properly uncomfortable with Twilight's appearance and thus concerned to some degree, which is nice. Oh, good. She's just telling them what's wrong and they're all concerned. Hooray! Good friendship stuff. Long. Twilight does some more of her patented teleportation when nothing important is going on, so that when she doesn't teleport in important moments, I can yell at her for it. She also is trying to convey how big of a problem this is, and they disagree, thinking it's just whatever. Remember when I said I loved Rarity took other people's concerns seriously? Well, that was just for fashion, unfortunately, so I guess it's not applicable here. But Pinkie, at the very least, should not want to see her friend upset, and offer some level of comfort or camaraderie. Don't make me use the clip again. Okay, the main six's attitude towards Twilight's concerns is getting to be too much. They're brushing off the clearly distressed friend who's having a mental breakdown, with Pinkie laughing in Twilight's face like it's a joke. None of them taking it seriously. This is oddly similar to how Twilight treated Pinkie and Griffin Brushoff, so it's not totally undeserved, but paying back bad decisions and behavior with more bad decisions and behavior isn't a great formula for friendship now, is it? Most of this episode is full of Twilight meme faces. I can't get them all, but I figured I should at least mention it. Twilight, after not getting to do her crash out at the Grand Galloping Gala, decides that now's her time to make a problem so she can fix it, just like the others. She's about to learn her first, quote, magic can't solve everything, end quote, lesson. One she and many others in the series learn a lot, which is part of why I mentioned that Celestia must have learned it too back in the backstory episode where she, helped Twilight without magic. Twilight sees the CMC playing with a volleyball and decides to apparate inside the ball, destroying it and interrupting them. Like any reasonable adult, she wants to destroy their fun and focus on her issues. Am I projecting? Where did that come from? Nah, I can't be wrong. It's the kids. The children are scared and uncomfortable. Me too, kids. Me too. So Twilight's grand plan is to give her childhood toy to the CMC so they all want it and will fight over it so she can teach a lesson about sharing. The CMC who are all out of their stuffed animal phases. Actually, now that I think about it, this is one of the few times that we see the CMC just playing and having fun without going for their cutie marks. I mean, they might have been doing that, but it's never said, so they may have just been playing around normally. That whole idea of, being able to do what you like and not have to go for the cutie mark is literally the plot of a future episode. So, looking forward to that, I guess. So after some CMC hijinks, Twilight casts what I'll call an infatuation spell. Not quite a love spell, but more of one that, in her own words, quote, makes you like it more than anything, end quote. It basically makes the target, hopefully object, something everyone obsesses over. This spell seems insanely dangerous, and I question why she would have learned this in the first place. It's not like she's super old and educated and struggling to learn new spells, so she picks up, something weird, and she's still learning, so she can pick and choose more useful ones for her day-to-day. What made her want this one? And we know that unicorns learn spells and don't just manifest their desires. They might also be able to do that, but we aren't aware of it at this point. We also know that this isn't like a new Twilight original spell, because that's like the plot of one of the season premieres, where she creates new magic, that is. Twilight calls it the want it, need it spell, and says it works every time. How many times have you used this? Why do you know it? A random Big Mac appears and Twilight drafts him to help her retrieve the doll, showing her manic behavior has dulled her brain. She also calls him by his full name, being Macintosh, which was always weird to hear characters do. Also, random side note, does Big Mac have the biggest cutie mark? Cause that apple is flippin' massive. Oh no, Twilight is shocked that Big Mac fell under the spell that she specifically cast to do this very thing. How could she have foreseen that? Anyway, they forgot to color in this little bit of the background up here, which is funny. Oh hey, Mayor is a character again. Well, actually, she's just a background for this episode. And she was also just sort of standing here reading a book on a chair, because obviously she couldn't sit in the chair normally because it's designed for humans, and for some reason they didn't modify the design to not be for humans. I mean, like, you would just remove the back and make it longer, because then you could just lay on it and look at the book. Or maybe like I don't know, I'm overthinking this. Yeah, anyway, Bon 49 and Lyra 42. Surprising no one other than Twilight, the situation has gotten out of control, with the toy attracting most of Ponyville. And we can also see the CMC are stuck in the pile as well, which is funny. Big Mac displays his powerhouse abilities and launches the entire pile of ponies away when Mayor steals the doll from him. More Earth Pony power being shown off. And I remember someone said, like, Earth Ponies don't actually have enhanced physical stats, but I think the evidence of the show says otherwise. Like, I think in the Hearth Swarming Eve episode, they specifically say, like, Earth Ponies have robust and, like, capable physiques suitable for farming or something like that, even though their magic is what helps them with farming. Because all three ponies have magic, so what would the magic of the Earth Ponies be? Well, it's very nature-based, but it's also very strength-based, because 90% of the strength-based feats in the show are done by Earth Ponies. Maud, Big Mac, Applejack, even Pinkie to some extent, and then there's that future guy with the shovel in, like, season 8 or whatever, season 7, somewhere around there. The historical super pony, whatever, the full Kuro. You know what I'm talking about if you know. Derpy 39. Also, the Horde of Ponies runs through the main six's picnic, which ends up grabbing all of their attention. Also, just as a reminder, I'm not going to count Lyra and Bon for the remainder of this chase, because I've already counted them at the start of it, and we know that they're in this scene, so they're going to be here constantly, as long as it's kept consistent. Everyone is confused why Twilight would do what she did, and even after her explanation, they give no real reaction. Not much to say about them this episode. They're very dismissive of everything that's going on. Twilight was also able to stop Rainbow from falling under the doll's spell by pulling her eyes away quickly, so it's not an instant infatuation, which is a good detail, I guess. Well, anyways, I guess it's time for Celestia to arrive. actually upsets Celestia. Do I hype or not hype? Either way, she actually uses magic for the first time and undoes the magic enchantment, so that's cool. We see the magic teacher actually do magic. Mayor becoming super red and embarrassed about fighting over a doll is adorable and funny. And a fun subversion is that Big Mac actually likes the doll regardless of the spell, so that's a bit of a happy ending for him. This might even say something about his character not receiving enough, like, comfort or affection, and so he uses the doll as a substitute. That might be overthinking things. Some fun expressions here. We got concern from Flutters, like you'd expect, confusion from Pinky and Rarity, shock from Rainbow, and a bit of, oops, sorry, I didn't take you seriously from Applejack, while Twilight is full prostration mode. Also, I didn't mention it, but Celestia being accompanied by light when she's using her magic is, sensical. I understand. Which means back in episode 1, season 1, she was using magic when she reappeared at the end, so yeah, The rule of 3 comes to fruition, and Rarity does the worst possible thing ever reaction joke again, but actually means it this time, which is good levity and what could be seen as a actually dour situation. Those of us who know Celestia know exactly what she's upset about. It's not the misletter, that's for damn sure. Also, it is very cute how Fluttershy is upset at Rarity for making a joke in the situation, because she's actually concerned about Twilight, which is a good detail. Couple of things here. Spike watching concernedly is adorable, but also Twilight's mane is completely fixed here after it was disheveled, but in the immediate next shot, it's disheveled again. She also explains to Celestia that she was supposed to send her a letter every week, but failed and missed the deadline, claiming she's a bad student. How does Celestia respond? Is it A, she yells at Twilight about how she's right and sends her to Magic Kindergarten? B, locks her in Canterlot dungeons for failing her mighty princess? Or C, calmly listens and explains Twilight's misunderstandings and mistakes? Correct, it's A. Celestia tells Twilight she's a great student and that she doesn't need a letter every week to tell her that, catching Twilight off guard for some reason, which those confidence issues we talked about in previous episodes probably, followed by the main 6 arriving to shout for Celestia to wait and not punish Twilight, which Celestia then hits them with the funniest joke of the episode, I'm listening. We know, and she knows, that Celestia has no intention of punishing Twilight in any real way, but Celestia is letting Twilight's friends speak up for her so she can see Twilight's progress in her lessons in friendship. Big brain Celestia. God, she's written so well in these early seasons. Let's just ignore the Discord fiasco and the Nightmare Moon bonanza and the literal massive dragon debacle that were questionably bad decisions. Let's just ignore those. Oh, Pinky nuzzles Twilight to comfort her. My poor frozen heart is thawing. God, that was too cute. I gotta watch monster truck rallies and gun disassembly videos to man back up. Oh, who am I kidding? I hate all that crap. More ponies! Celestia putting on the most motherly, yeah, keep going, I'm deciding how to punish you still, face, while perfectly knowing she's not going to do jack is hilarious. Also, the main 6 are describing exactly what I said, quote, we should have taken our friend's distress more seriously, end quote. Pretty standard and obvious lesson. So before getting to their punishment in the plot of season 2, Celestia's just standing on a railing here with perfect balance, and that's funny AF to me. Completely doesn't need to, but does it for style points. Anyway, their punishment is that all of them now have to write letters to Celestia about their friendship lessons, but instead of every week, it's just when they learn them, removing the arbitrary time constraint that caused her people so much distress, all while pretending that she's doing this as a favor instead of it always being her plan. Of course, Twilight is coming out, so what does she have to say? Actually, all she has to say is, how did Celestia know to be here? Which is when it's revealed that Spike is the one who called Celestia, because like I said last episode, Spike is ride or die for Twilight and watches out for her. Also revealing that Celestia came here with purely helpful intentions, as well as having Spike do exactly what I've wanted him to do for like 29 episodes, and call Celestia for help. I feel better now, don't you? Celestia teleports like Twilight for the first time, and given how she said she had to return to Canterlot, we can only assume that she's strong enough to teleport all the way back there in one go, showing off her magic some more that we've been lacking, so good job, show. And yeah, they just recap the letter to Celestia that they already said, so no notes. Spike also finally gets a hug of appreciation from Twilight, and that's really nice and gives me the warm fuzzies. He's deserved it. Rarity has a pillow. It's hilarious. That is all. Pinky does a pinkyism, which is annoying, but they also added an addendum to the lesson, and that being to not let your problems grow until you can't do anything about them anymore, which is another good lesson. Nice job, show. To the outro. And that was season 2, episode 3, lesson 0. I'm mixed on this episode. It's got a good amount of stuff. It's got a couple of things that irk me. It's got some cringe in there that I'm not a big fan of, but I still think it's an above average episode, so I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Don't really have a lot to say about it other than some really good Celestia representation. Pinky got that really adorable moment. Twilight's mental collapse just kind of feels overboard, but they just dialed up traits to 11 for this episode. They do that in a lot of episodes, so I'm not that worried about it, and I won't dock too many points for it. So yeah, 6 out of 10. See y'all later.